Welcome to Masters of Data. I'm Adam White. I have with me Zoe Hawkins and David Girvin. Hello, friends.
Hi, it's
Hi.
us again.
Hello.
Us again, back in the saddle. Today, we are talking about how to bootstrap your AppSec program. David, I feel like I hear you say AppSec maybe more than anyone in the company in a good way. Like I feel like it's a part of your soul, a passion of yours. Tell us about AppSec, if you will. Like, how do you think about it? What is it? Maybe what it was, if it's changed. Like, give us the rundown.
Yeah, I mean, I just talk about the only thing I know. So,
It's
so
like-
my career, I started in AppSec. I got my first job popping boxes and doing pen testing and Burp Suite hero stuff, and worked at 1Password and Red Canary and built AppSec programs and all that kind of stuff. So AppSec is application security. If you are a SaaS company, it's also your product security. So it's always something important to remember. It's always the tricky part of everything. Like I would argue that CorpSec physical security is pretty straightforward. There's rules and you do things a certain way, and AppSec's this weird monster in the dark that you're constantly trying to figure out. So it's to me, it's always going to be fun. All of my AppSec buddies that I worked with, we were still in group chats and making fun of everything that, security marketing puts out and all that kind of stuff. So it takes, in my opinion, kind of a different type of person to be successful in as well.
So,
and what is that person like? What do you mean?
Usually extroverted assholes that like people. So
Ooh,
yeah,
we're getting more unicornish now.
yeah. So the reason is the problem isn't hey, I'm gonna write this policy and you're gonna do it. Because you're dealing with developers who, like I've said before, love to be special butterflies and do things their own way because they're smart, creative humans, and I get it. Doesn't mean I like it. I want everybody to do things the same way. So I would argue that AppSec is a technical problem. There's tools and stuff like that, but it's more of a relationship and social engineering problem. And that's why I fell in love with it. When I first got into security, I thought I was going to be a physical pen tester. I'm good at those things and breaking into places in a weird way. And
Carrying around a clipboard.
yeah, so his face is like, oh,
Yeah.
weird. But yeah,
well,
like
but this is my question. Okay, so like you say AppSec versus CorpSec and like carrying around a clipboard. So like I have done so many years of security training at like different companies I've been at, and they're all the same. It's like don't let women carrying boxes into your building. Don't accept USB sticks from Swag and then plug it into your device. Don't click the phishing email. Are any of those AppSec or is all of that like physical CorpSec type
that's all
stuff?
CorpSec stuff. But the
Okay.
thing that I loved about that was like being really creative, finding a way to solve a problem.
Mm.
AppSec still has the same issue. Solving the problem usually isn't the technical aspect. So it's not like I'm going to be super creative on how to patch this vulnerability I found. The problem is a people problem. How am I going to portray a security culture that's enticing? How am I going to get developers on my team? How am I going to have champions and sway in a team that I don't have a manager title in? Like that's the different thing. So obviously Adam's my boss here and knows that this is what I do here. I work on every single team in the company and I'm nosy. But it's because I grew up in AppSec. That's what I
That
did.
is your job. We
It's-
always
So
talk
you
about,
still do physical
yeah.
bridge building. It's just
Yeah,
inter
right.
it's
I
connection
still do physical
building.
pen testing, just not for sumo,
There
I'm
you
a
go.
little hung up
and
on
not
the
legally.
don't let women walk in with boxes. I have never heard that. Like,
Oh
why
my
is
gosh.
that?
It is always a thing where
It
like
is.
every training video is just like this poor damsel in distress woman who's carrying like a box of files or like a random delivery. And she's like, I'm so sorry. Can you hold the door for me? And then like, don't let her in. Like, keep her outside. Don't hold the door open because she's a scammer. It's
That's
like,
the Trojan horse, huh? A
this
woman
is
with boxes.
clearly
Okay.
how they stole everything from the Louvre. This is
Right.
the this is what
The
happened. The
Louvre.
Louvre.
Bruh. I mean,
Yes.
my wife tells me not to trust women. It's just, it's just how it works.
Don't
Now,
trust
what that
women
came from,
carrying
Is a different
boxes. There's
conversation.
a
Yeah.
fun pen testing history. Everybody was so easy to pop in the old days. Like You could walk in anywhere with a clipboard, like Adam said, or with a FedEx shirt and just walk through security. Like no one even thought twice. And then people started hitting compliance stuff and having to like, oh, well, we have to like do training and we have to figure out like, oh, we did this physical pen test and we got smoked. And then every single physical pen test company was like, I'm going to hire a woman, I'm going to make her fake pregnant or carry a box or both, and they're just going to walk through again. And now it's hilarious because I feel like any like bank, anybody that actually has to do annual physical, like if you walk through carrying a box and you're a pregnant woman, you're not going to get into the bank.
You're
Like,
getting
whoa,
nowhere. They stop you at the door.
Get out
Get
of
get out of
here.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing with like bringing it back to AppSec. It's like this kind of the same stuff. Like um we have to have a way to Trojan horse our way in. Like for me, I was always tried to be the fun guy. Like I genuinely, I'm the grumpiest person, but not really. You know what I mean? It's like a fake grumpy. I
Mm.
love people, always have, super extroverted. So my goal was always to build deep relationships with an engineering team. And I did that by taking everybody out to dinner and beers. I always treated it like sales. Just like when I was a sales engineer, I'd take customers out, all that kind of stuff. I'm not being fake. I genuinely like hanging out with people and I'm building those relationships. And at our big company hackathons, especially at my last place, we'd all meet up 4 or 5 times a year. I would find the people who necessarily haven't built those relationships in the company. Maybe they're more introverted, maybe they're just not into that. Like, I get it. I'm on the spectrum. Like, I can vibe with anybody kind of. And it's like, those usually are the people that you need on your team. Those are the people who have insight that others don't. Because if you're not there just getting hammered with the rest of the engineers, you might actually care about what you're building. So, you know, yeah, it's a weird problem, but I love it.
Yeah. What about from like a steps
Mm,
perspective? Just kind of
yeah.
curious, what are like some of the building blocks of an AppSec program? I think you may have just hit on one of them, which is kind of that bridge building, the people element, which we talk about, so often. It's a super critical component. But yeah, what are your kind of thoughts on that?
Yeah, 100%. The first thing is don't be the asshole security guy. Like this whole like meh, old school view of a security guy, like that's dead. You've done nothing for the industry. Go away. I'm genuinely like security teams need to be the cool teams. We need to be because we have the hard job that pisses people off, so we have to be enjoyable.
And also like business enablement,
Yeah,
not like business
100%.
suppression.
100%. We are there to support the business's goals and their risk appetite, not what our nerdy butts think is cool. So the first thing is to figure that out. And then
Yeah.
the next kind of like step
But
forward.
wait, no, wait. I want to stay on this step for one more second
Okay.
because I think, Roland, who we all love, has been on this podcast a bunch. And if you haven't seen an episode with him, like go find that. Like he's fantastic, our security leader here at Sumo Logic. And
The
he
worst.
the word, yeah, I know. You and he, nemesis. No.
We're bad.
The one of the things he talks about is like obviously making sure your team that you have that rapport and like you have that credibility to people across the organization, but he also talks a lot about explaining this to executives as well in language that they understand. And so
Yes.
I think that might be worth just 2 minutes in terms of the step building. Like, obviously, you want to go out and have dinner and drinks with the developers, but you should probably also have dinner and drinks with the executives as well to make
Well,
sure they
so
understand. I mean, pushing your
my
limits there,
step
I know.
two
Oh,
actually was about this.
oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, we can
No,
two-step into
perfect
that.
lead in.
There we go.
So step two, like for bootstrapping an AppSec program, and this is from scratch, right?
Yeah.
Is to meet with your people who are stakeholders. So if I got hired on and they're like, David, we got a couple of guys kind of doing AppSec, they're developers. We want you to get in there and train them up and blah, 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 and build it, write us a secure SLDLC and all these kind of things. I'd be like, breaks. No, we're not going to do that. I'm going to meet with everybody that has risk buy-in on this. And like you are actually going to sign documents with me when I need risk buy-in. Like if I'm putting risk on you, I don't put risk on myself. That's not what security people do. We put it to the people who hold the company, right? So yeah, you got to figure out who that is, whether it's your CTO, if you're under the CFO, you're going to have a really bad day. But you still need that CFO in there because you need their takes for step three. And step three is My favorite thing that we talk about all the time, threat modeling. Yay! So you're going to sit down with people who have executive buy-in, who have real stake in this game, and you're going to look at risk appetite from a non-technical perspective. And that is going to guide you in doing a technical threat modeling. So let's say we know, like, okay, the company's main source of pain for if bad things happen is data breach or this database or whatever. Now you know where to start building your company, your program around, because this does not happen overnight. This is going to take you a couple of years, maybe 3, to mature it into something that I would say is a real AppSec program. Um, so from that point, now you at least have an understanding of where to start. And I'm going to piss off many of the people out there. Shift left is stupid unless you have some of the modern tools. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But forever, everybody's like, shift left. Just run a SCA scan and run a SAS scan and then put it all on your developers. And I'll tell you why that's wrong. SCA is composition analysis. It's your third-party libraries. A SAS is looking at business logic in your code. And these are the noisiest, high false positive BS tools that we had back then. I'm going to talk about them now. They've gotten a lot better. But they basically told you to start AppSec. You buy these tools, you go in there, you scan all this shit, and then you go, "Hey, engineering, here's 400 years worth of vulnerabilities to fix. You guys suck at writing code." And you're like, dude, like, no one's going to do anything. You're going to piss everybody off, and the engineering managers are going to start working against you.
Yeah.
So I don't ever start there. And I don't think anybody should.
One of the things that you said just now, the risk appetite, I find to be a super fascinating component of just business in general. Because when my mind thinks about risk, I'm like, no risk is good. But that's not the case actually in, legal, all across the business, like you are accepting a certain amount of risk, and you're just saying, not that we don't care about that, but it's not what we're focusing on or what we're trying to kind of put the bulk of our effort behind. So I just think maybe real quick, just kind of an interesting discussion on, like, David, maybe how you've seen some of that play out before. And I'm sure it's industry to industry, and compliance drivers probably have a lot to do with it. But what does that risk analysis like really look like?
So the way I would like normally explain to someone who's not thinking that way, because most people aren't broken, is you take risk every day, but you've already decided that you're comfortable with that risk. You drive cars. What kills the most people? Cars. Well, heart disease because we eat, fried food all day and everything. We won't get into that talk.
It's so delicious,
It's so
worth the
good, but
risk.
it's so poison.
You were just talking about using tallow as deodorant, so I don't
I,
think this
I
is a leg
am.
to stand on.
If anybody doesn't know, I'm like a dirty hippie, so apologize. Um, but from that's how I like kind of explain the concept before we start threat modeling with executives and like go through what the business risk appetite is. Like, so at 1Password, I worked there. I uh did a bunch of weird things there. But anyways, when we were talking about like what's our risk appetite and what's worth it from a bug bounty perspective when we were setting up, we put $1 million bounty on a vault because we know at that time that was the most important thing from a risk appetite. If you could get to that information, the company's cooked. So
Yeah.
let's throw as much money as we can at it, see if anybody can get there before bad guys do and we get reputational damage, right? Because we saw what happened with another, I'm not going to say their name, but another password manager that got popped with some, not the best things. And they had a huge market share drop. But for some reason, people forget about things very quickly and they're kind of back at the game
Short
again.
memory in tech.
Short memory in tech. But you really kind of need to learn what your company makes money at and what protects it to keep making that money. Because, like I said,
Yeah.
if you're not a business person in security, you're not a good security person.
Well, and this comes back to this thing that I now, like, I always joke, like, this was one of those things my mom would ask me, like, what's the worst that could happen? And that's now what I ask myself with certain security things, like, truly saying, like, okay, fine, if someone gets access to my Slack, what's the worst that could happen? If someone gets access to my LinkedIn, what's the worst that could happen? And if someone gets access to my bank account, what's the worst that could happen? And so like obviously those, are different levels of like how much I clench even just imagining it. And so I think there's that piece of like businesses are very much the same. Like how much reputational risk or business risk or whatever is there to these different vulnerabilities? Because yeah, like we are going to be vulnerable in some way, shape, or form. You can't be absolutely impenetrable. So, what are the things that you super have to protect? And what are some things that you're like, okay, I'm willing to accept that this might be a problem down the road?
Yeah, like so many security people, and I'm not just blaming CISOs because a lot of them are really good at their, relationship handling and stuff like that, but a lot of them necessarily aren't technical in the sense, and they're listening to the consultants and blah 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 blah. So they basically do this upside down pyramid when it comes to risk. They're just spraying as much crap as they can out there, as opposed to the way that I look at everything as we're going to build a program and we're going to mature the program. So we're going to start with what's the most important now because you haven't been popped yet, obviously doing nothing. And some of these companies are big and been around for 10, 15 years without doing anything. So let's tackle the big, heavy, audacious goal in the beginning type of thing. And then if we have a little time, we can maybe do some low hanging fruit stuff as well. But it's not this buy all the tools, spray and pray, because the people aren't going to fix stuff. If you dump 10,000 vulns on your engineering, they're just going to laugh at you and never talk to you again. So I usually start with, I take the risk appetite, the threat model that we've already built. If I need to, if it's going to be some developer stuff, I'll write the policy for it. And then I usually start on the offensive side because I want to know what's actionable now. That's the thing is like if you
Yeah.
find a SaaS vulnerability in your code base, you don't know if it's exploitable, except some of the cool tools that are coming out right now. You kind of can know. But if you find something with a Burp Suite and a DAS tool, and you're coming from the outside in, and I pop a SQL injection on you, I promise you that's exploitable. And now we're not just stepping on a sprint from an engineering team with a hunch. I can put a little video together, send that to the engineering manager, be like, hey, bro, glad I could take you to the Churrascaria and buy you guys drinks. Can you get this done for me? Because we're smoked if you don't. That's a totally different approach than what a lot of these guys are doing. And it really makes actionable things. And then you set it up as a win. You, in our little company talk things or whatever, your Zoom meetings, you'd be like, you call out that team. Hey, good job, database team. You found a critical vulnerability. You fixed it in under a week, and now we're this much safer. That goes a long way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Love it.
you've started talking a little bit about the tools. I think we're up to that in our step-by-step process. So what, if I'm building this, so I've built my bridges, I'm now buddies with everybody,
Yeah.
execs down to, developers who had no friends before. And then, I've threat modeled this thing, inside out and outside in. So what do I need to do to what
Yeah.
tools, what toys
So
do
the
I
first
need?
the first one's going to be your DAS tool, like a scanner and a burp suite setup. So that's basically just from the outside in. You obviously have to have your policy in place. You have to understand like secure coding and that kind of stuff and write it. The OWASP top 10 is always kind of like the Bible for AppSec and understanding what's happening there. Um, and then when you get to that next stage and you're like, okay, we have to secure the SDLC. You have to you have to do all these steps in the SDLC and testing and that kind of stuff. Now we can do it in the IDEs. We're actually writing code. You have the scanning going on, which is awesome stuff. But with
Software development life cycle.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, sorry, software development lifecycle and secure software development lifecycle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ooh,
Um,
SS.
that's what you're trying to create.
We don't need a secure one. Yeah.
No, we
No, I'll just take the normal one. It's
just
fine.
spam shit at it and
Yeah.
so you did testing. But so we get to that point now, the SCA and the SaaS tool that we talked about earlier, it's really cool. Like Endor and some of these other companies that are coming out, they're actually building attack paths. So the big problem was you'd find a SaaS or an SCA vulnerability, and then you would be like, I didn't write all this code. Like you try to understand it the best you can. You're like, I have no idea if this is exploitable or not. So how am I going to rank the vulnerability? Because if I rank it critical and they spend 3 sprints fixing it and it wasn't critical, I wasted the company $1 million, right? If I don't rank it high and it doesn't get fixed and it's on the backlog, and then we get popped because of this, how much? Who knows how much I wasted, right? So this was always the stress that sat on me because I've never been a great developer. I'm an okay developer. I build stuff and I build some pretty in-depth stuff, but when I worked with brilliant developers, like especially Red Canary, I worked with some really smart people, and I was constantly like having meetings like, what do you think? Do you think we can fix this? Do you think we can do you think this is exploitable? Let me tell you from an attacker's point of view how I would see it happening, and we talk about that stuff. People fix that with AI, which is amazing. So now they're giving you attack path if it's viable and patch on like how to fix it. Now that's not going to fix everything. We've talked about my patching dilemma before on this podcast where polymorphic attacks can patch and predict what you're going to patch to, and they're going to get ahead of you. So we still have this problem. But it's taking a huge chunk of time from my day out by doing that. Because now I can look at it and be like, okay, it built the little attack path, and I think that's viable. I can go test that real quick. Um, and I can say, okay, this really is a high or critical to me. And like on crits, we have like a 3 day turnaround, and high, we have 2 weeks or whatever. So I know what pressure it's going to put on the engineering team, but they trust that I've done my homework, and this type of like AI tool that's building out these little flows and showing me my SBOM and all these other things is is giving me that. And that's where I love AI now. Like we're seeing things that are actually useful. And I haven't got to play with these because I'm not an AppSec director, but uh from what I've seen from the companies I love, it's really neat.
But so this goes back to now, sort of. I know you say shift left is BS and all of that, which is fine.
It's getting
Everyone
towards
has
it.
to, yeah. But I think it is interesting, like you say, with AI and tooling and stuff like that. Like I'm seeing people use, for example, like Claude Code or GitHub Copilot or something like that, and saying like you can't push a PR unless it's gone through this AI testing capability.
Yeah.
And so depending on your tools, like depending on which AI you trust and which ones you don't and whatever that looks like, essentially that to me kind of sounds like shift left, but just with the AI doing some of that shifting of saying like, okay, cool, we can find vulnerabilities in your code before you push it. Like we can do that shift left without making developers stuck in like an endless loop of testing and checking and whatever, and peer review and whatever else it might be.
Yeah, it's definitely getting better. And it's like the AI's in there, it's getting pretty dang good at coding, it's seeing business logic issues, seeing hard-coded, secrets. It's seeing oh, you didn't put a filter here, like you're not whitelisting here, whatever. And so that kind of stuff is pretty good at. And it's neat to see how fast it's going. On the other side, like there's companies that aren't using AI that figured out things from actually just looking at data, like root evidence. They've figured out from all the insurance data that only I think like 1% of all CVEs have ever been exploited. So
Hmm.
their whole thing is like we're going to build scanners just for exploited things. Like we're not going to try to boil the entire ocean. We're going to focus kind of like what we are talking about that pyramid. We're going to focus on the most critical and highest percentage things. So we're seeing it like on both ends of the spectrum. I mean, they're on the outside, they're on the scanner side. So they're on the right hand of the side, and we're seeing the AI on the left hand of the side, and we're like meeting in the middle with happy AppSec love. That's where we want to be. We want to build secure things.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, I think, it is still, I'm a little, and this is just like the skeptic in me. Like, I love the idea of AI checking things. I mean, I do it myself with content, which I know is like a sin, but like, I won't necessarily let the AI write my stuff, but I will absolutely run it through. I mean, I first started doing
Yeah.
this with emails where I would be like, I'm about to send this email and I have email send anxiety. Is this okay to hit send? Or did I secretly swear at this person and I forgot that I did that? And like AI will check things and gut check for me. But I do have that thing as well where I'm like, okay, but is the AI checker secure? Like, who's watching the Watchmen kind of vibe of like, it can
Yeah.
get very creepy of like, am I, by letting the AI check stuff, actually creating a vulnerability or actually like introducing some other risk that I might not be aware of.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you have to secure your AI. You have to have somebody who's, in my opinion, offensive security because the way they think, but you have to have that kind of person writing your AI policy. You have to
Mm.
understand what tools you're using, and we've talked about this in the podcast. Don't be the Department of No, threat model, and all that good stuff. But um, we're definitely in a spot where it's tricky. I am, trying to figure out how do I programmatically verify truth from AI suggestions in my off time. And that's another mix of all this, right? I think it's got to be everything together because AI is not going to fix it.
Mm.
It's going to
But it
help,
helps.
but we still have to verify. Like we can't just completely trust anything. So there's got to be checks and balances in there.
Mm.
Part of what we were talking about with AI, especially like if it's touching code, writing code or checking code, is that like AppSec can and maybe should bleed into corporate security. It's like I think that's a Venn diagram area where people need to be working together, even more as that becomes more and more prevalent.
Totally. I mean, it's getting muddy. The Venn
Yeah.
diagram is getting deeper. We're all just a shade of purple mud now, like kind of brown. Everything's getting weird with the teams, because before it was like, okay, CorpSec has the SIM and they have the, no trust and the single sign-on crap and all that stuff. And then AppSec touches all the code, the website, anything we're producing product that has code. And now it's kind of like, well, but we just built an LLM and we built an agent internally, and that's running on the sales team. But who's in charge of that? Like, oh yeah, AppSec checked it out before it got pushed, but who monitors that?
Right.
I think these are things that I think a lot of security leaders haven't, like maybe they're thinking about right now, but like haven't flushed out. And you're like, oh crap, like you know, marketing has another AI tool. Great. So everything's going to sound
Yeah.
exactly the same. But we got to make sure that it's not, vulnerable to,
The
policy check.
AI is the new pregnant woman carrying the boxes, just saying.
Oh.
I mean, I tell you what, it's not secure. And we talked about this a million times. MCPs are 60% of the ones public facing are ready to pop. Like they're easy.
Oh my
They're
God,
vulnerable. That's
there you go. It's we're
The
bringing it full circle. It's back to CorpSec
be a
yeah.
AI.
hilarious logo for an AI AppSec company, pregnant lady with a box. Um,
Dude, I'm stealing that.
There you go. If
Honey
you're
Badger is
listening
going
to
to have a
this,
new logo and
David
it's not a
called
honey
dibs.
badger.
It's done.
yeah, it's our idea. No one can steal it.
There's just going to be a figure of a pregnant lady carrying a box, but by her belly, it's going to say AI, not
Yeah,
AI with the
in the
sparkle on
belly.
it as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Well, this has been super fun. Enjoyed the discussion about bootstrapping an AppSec program. So thank y'all for this today. Appreciate the discussion. Thanks again, David and Zoe, and thank you all for listening. Please subscribe if you haven't, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.